taxing in Hawaii. It's raining on him right now as we speak. So I'm going to be asking to share the meeting this evening. So we'll get fired up. It's 5:32, and we'll get rolling. And the first thing is the call to order, which we just had. Next will be the approval or disapproval of the minutes from the September 17th meeting.
I move we approve the minutes from the September 17th, 2014 meeting.
Second.
And moved and seconded. Call roll.
Kelly?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
North?
Yes. Next is the approval or disapproval of the financial report. And that one is different.
It is, and I'm not understanding.
No, I'm not excited about it, to tell you the truth.
And I will relay that to Joe Don. I know that that was a new format that he distributed to us.
Very new format.
I mean, is the annual budget that we have to spend $310,000?
Well,
That says revenue. Because if you go to the expense, it says the budget is 455, maybe? No. Yeah. 461 budgeted expenditures.
So what's the 310?
That's the taxes we brought in?
So 104,992 is what
Are
we
you
spent.
looking on that first one?
Well, you know, okay, the first page number, I don't know if they also, yeah, page number 1. My interpretation is that there's a budget of $310,000 in taxes annually for revenue. Year to date, we've actually brought in $104,928.
That's correct.
The bottom part of that is the summary of the expenditures. They're budgeting $461,000 in expenditures, and so far we've spent
$150,000 short?
$201,550. No, the current period reflects, looks like a payment made probably to the
Yeah, it might be
the
conference center.
Yes, the $150,000 to the conference center.
leaving, or with apparently a balance of $259 left to spend
In your budget.
in the budget.
And I believe that budget was established with Henry being the chair and Joe Don.
Yeah, that's kind of something new we finally had to start doing.
Yes.
Putting in, with all these commingled funds, we had to have a budget.
Now, page 2 is just a summary of the revenue side of that. Page 3 is a summary of the expense side of that.
So why on the first page does it say revenues over under expenditures, and it's got $96,556.99 parentheses?
Because
I'm not a numbers person, so you have to explain this.
we've contributed $96,000 for this period, for this year. It doesn't.
Because our year didn't start till July.
Yes, our
Right.
fiscal year starts
So
July
when we
1.
spent that 150, although we had it from last year,
It carried over to this
carried
budget.
over.
So it shows we've spent 96 more than what we.
Actually had it, but we really are still.
The items that
We
you
still
granted
have.
under the last fiscal year were encumbered for this fiscal year.
So the cash and investment balances, were those two separate balances then, adding up to almost 411,000?
Yes, you have funds in CD.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
the way it looks.
Yeah.
That's the way it looks. Yeah. Not to be cynical, but we've tried to fix something that wasn't broken.
Well, it just gives me a better idea, honestly, on where we stand each year, on what our budget is and what we really should spend for just that year alone. So, I know we have carryover and stuff, but
And if you go back to the, of course, the last page, it also shows the cash in the bank total, which would include the CDs. And, available funds. That's always the best page, the one that shows what we actually have out there hanging over our heads. So, what we have.
I move that we approve the financial report as it stands.
Second.
Been approved. Motion and a second.
Kelly,
Yes.
Janet,
Aye.
Norm.
Aye. Next item of business is the approval or disapproval of the Chamber of Commerce Tourism Secretary. Not to exceed $6,000. Alex,
Good evening. I know many of you have probably been here for this request in the past, but I'll give you just a little bit of history. The Northwest Oklahoma Visitor Center was created in 2010 by the Woods County Economic Development Committee. When that group reformed, one of its missions was tourism. And so they established that tourism center in the building that you see today up on Oklahoma Boulevard. Upon its opening, the Alva Chamber was asked to solicit volunteers to staff that center, and it did so for almost a full year. And like many things, our volunteers started to dwindle, and we ended up with essentially no volunteers. So another entity took over that tourism center and moved out within about a year. And then the Alva Chamber was asked to move into that Oklahoma Boulevard location, and today the Chamber and Northwest Oklahoma Visitor Center are housed in what you see today. I believe it was a great decision, and our traffic count continues to increase. As if you drive by, you'll see many cars. At the Tourism Center, we have a Tourism Chamber secretary or staff person there from 9 to 4. I am employed by the Chamber 20 hours a week, and I am also employed by the City of Alva, so I thought I'd share that with you. At the Visitor Center, we answer, of course, tourism calls. We answer emails regarding tourism, and most importantly, lodging. That has increased. The amount of people requesting lodging is growing, of course, because we have more and more hotels. We order information from the State Department of Tourism, and we disseminate that information. We also disseminate local information, such as mural information, the museums. We mail out tourism packets. Someone will call us and ask us for certain pieces of material, and we pay for that. We did not track that necessarily, but we have decided for this fiscal year we will start to, especially because it is an expense to the Chamber. We estimate we sent out about 25 packets last year. If a group has a meeting or a event takes place, we will put together tourism bags, welcome bags for those groups, and we make them specific for what they need. Our chamber prints a chamber directory or a welcome guide, and I apologize, I meant to bring one in here, and Janet created that for us or laid that out. It's probably been almost 5 years ago. And it has been a huge tourism piece for us, and we give that as well. We give it to events. We give it, again, to anybody who comes into the chamber. We distribute it to businesses to be able to give out. So we, of course, are there and give out lots of information as far as tourism. Now, we kind of had a question last year regarding what we do and getting funding, and I will tell you, I did some research. I called the Ponca Chamber, Fairview, and Enid, and actually I just did some background. The Ponca City Chamber is also a tourism center like we are, and they are under contract with their city for over $200,000 in hotel-motel tax funds. Fairview Chamber receives a grant that pays for a worker for over 20 hours a week. And I spoke with Enid, which their chamber and visitor center are separate entities, and Visit Enid receives quarterly payments. It used to be from their city, and now because of their growth with hotel-motel tax, are receiving their funding through their hotel-motel tax as of 1 year. As far as tracking, we have a sign-in sheet that people can sign in, and we try to track where they're from. We put in your application, we've had people from the Netherlands and Australia, but it is a sign of the times. It used to be everyone would sign in, but I think with people protecting their identity and not wanting to give out as much information, we've noticed in the last year more and more people saying no thank you, and so they don't necessarily want to write it down. So we're analyzing some other ways to track our visitors because they don't necessarily want to give us their name and information. But anyway, that's kind of an update or some information on what we have going on. And do you guys have any questions?
I move we approve the $6,000, not to exceed $6,000 for the Chamber of Commerce Tourism Center Secretary.
Second.
I have a motion and a second.
Kelly,
Yes.
Janet? Aye. Norma?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
You didn't have to do it,
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Next item on the agenda is a approval or disapproval of funds for permanent enhancements to the Alva gun range. Kirk Trekell.
Good evening. I have a couple of corrections. The first one I just noticed a little bit ago, and on the front page of the application, under "Please describe the event," I refer to 445 linear feet, and that's a typographical error. It should read 345. And if you look at the drawing on the back page, now those figures add up. They did not before, so that was a mistake that I had made and just caught. Another mistake that I had made, and it was more in my way of thinking, on the funds and budget worksheet, you have a new one in a separate handout there from your original packet. I had not included the $82,500 that we are requesting under the expenses. And it was brought to my attention that that should be listed under there because it is part of the overall project or the entire project. So after listing that $82,500 under the expenses, it changes the percent of event expenses to 35.51. And I think that previously was 55%.
And just so everybody knows, I am the one that pointed that out to Kirk, and I did call him and ask questions concerning that. So that was, thank you for changing that, I appreciate it.
Yes. Thank you for bringing it to my attention. What we are hoping to do or hoping to achieve is in that back picture, the artist rendering, it depicts covered areas over the firing line on a 100-yard range, and then this side is 300-yard range. The little building in the middle is not there, and we currently don't have any plans to put that there. I think I mentioned to the artist that drew this that we may put something there, and there has not been any plans for that. What we are hoping to achieve is the concrete and steel for these two covered portions, one being 120 foot in length, one being 225 feet in length. And the way we arrived at our figure, we kind of used industry standard prices for steel and concrete. I used $6.70 a square foot for concrete. This may actually be somewhat higher than the industry standard, but we realize that we are asking for up to this amount, and then we would put this out to bid to get the actual bids for the project. We used $11.66 a square foot for the steel and the erection of the structure. That came to $82,356, and I rounded it up to $82,500. You may ask, what benefit is this to Alva? It's I feel a tremendous asset to the community in a lot of ways. It's a non-profit range. There's not any profit figured in this anywhere. It's free of charge. It's non-membership. It's basically open 7 days a week, sun up to sundown. We do have rules posted, and it is self-policed, and very well self-policed, in that if there is someone there that sees someone doing something they shouldn't, they generally bring it to their attention and get things corrected. We've had very good luck with that, with self-policing of trash, with taking care of the targets. It is volunteer-led. Wes Miller and Matt Adair had both planned to be here with me this evening to help answer any questions that may come up, and they both notified me prior to the meeting that they had something come up unexpected and was not going to be able to be here. But we feel like the range is a service to the community. We think it's great for economic development. We've had a lot of contract employees in the area that stay at motels that have inquired about the range prior to getting it in operation. It is being used by local people. It is being used by people who are temporarily in the area. It is used by hunters that come to the area and then like to go to the range and sight their rifles in prior to actually going to their hunting plots. promotes parent youth activities through providing a place for them to take their children and their young people and take advantage of the range. The one handout I gave you there, I think it's on the back of the corrected budget worksheet. This picture, and I haven't been as good about going out there and taking pictures as I would like to. This picture, someone else actually posted on their Facebook page, and I asked them for permission to repost it on our Facebook page, but this young boy's father is behind him, and they had a story about how he was shooting the gun that his father learned to shoot. And then the next picture, I did take this picture one afternoon when I was out there and asked the folks if I could put that on our Facebook page. But that's two young girls and their parents, and they're taking advantage of the range. The little clip that I have set up here, and I apologize for its quality. Its quality is not very good, but it shows it was a Sunday afternoon in August, and I drove out to the range, and this group of people was at the range, and I later learned it was a church activity, and they had several game rangers out with them teaching safety. The one thing I want to point out is I'm driving down the road and holding my phone over here like this as I drive by. So what you're going to actually be looking at is the lit area out the window, and I apologize again for. It would have been better maybe if I'd had someone else driving, or if I would have. But anyway, I would like you to note, and it's a fairly short clip, I think it's 34 seconds long, so I might play it a couple of times, but I want you to note the number of people there, and they have, a lot of them have set up temporary shelters. And in the there's a couple of temporary shelters in the background. And that's the berm between the 100-yard and the 300-yard range. There's another temporary shelter. Another temporary shelter. And that line along there where those temporary shelters are, that's where we would like to. Did you all see enough of that? Okay. That line along there, that is where in our drawing, our artist rendition, the two shelters are, and when I referred to the end of the berm, that was right in here. But, I don't think I'll read the other things in the application. I assume that you all probably have read that application. If I would open the floor for any questions that you may have.
So, of course, this is a tourism committee, so what sort of events do you envision other holding out there?
Well, we as a gun range committee intend to promote events. Of course, we haven't, most of everything that's taken place to date has just occurred because the facility was there. Something else I wanted to show you, just have to think of it. There are security cameras at the range, and this is a current image of activity that's going on there. There's a couple of fellows out using the range now. As far as events, we would like to promote events. I think we feel like that once the improvements are made at the range, it will be worthy of being home to events. And at that point, we would like to be very active in promoting annual competitions and events for different types of shooting. The fact that it's a 300-yard range gives it the capability for long-range shooting competitions, all the way up to maybe pistol shooting competitions. There's one where they put bowling pins on a table and then time the length of time to clear the table. There's all kinds of different events and ideas. One fundraising event that took place was the Connor Snary benefit, and it was a great success, and I apologize for not having any pictures of that. I think I was actually out of town the day that took place, but with a facility that had improvements, we would be very involved in promoting events at the location.
How many volunteers would you say you have? And two questions. What kind of commitment do you have for further? You have a handful of organizations or groups here listed for in-kind contributions up to this point. What kind of commitments do you have from those groups or others moving forward for continued support?
Well, we have the City of Alva listed and Woods County District 1. They have been supporters of in-kind contributions and continue to show their support. We have, it's hard to put a number on the actual number of volunteers that we have when most all of the people that use the range pick up after themselves. If someone else left something behind, they will pick up their things as well. There are times that you can go out and find some things that need to be picked up, but if you go back the next day, somebody's generally picked it up. And the BJCC has expressed an interest in using the range, and I think it was about 3 Saturdays ago, I've gone through the program where I can go out and pick up inmates on a weekend, and the purpose for our trip out about 3 weekends ago was to replace the target boards on the back. And while we were out, we policed the range as far as picking up any trash, that type of thing. So we have help from them. There's several gentlemen that are so interested in just being out there because it's a nice place to be. And I apologize for not being able to recall the gentleman's first name, but his last name is Heron. He's a retired fellow that most every evening that I look at the camera, his van is out there and he's walking around just picking up brass. And of course the brass is recyclable, reloading purposes. And while he's out there, he picks up any trash that anyone may have left. There's another gentleman that does that, and then I hate it that I can't think of his name. It may come to me in a moment, but he spends quite a bit of time out there, as does Mr. Heron, and then myself and some of the other fellows on the committee. I know Steve Dowling contributed quite a bit to that, and he goes out and takes care of targets and takes his skid steer out and helps dig the holes to put the targets in and do that type of thing. So there's quite a network actually of people that are interested enough to contribute their time to that.
Who owns the land? Is that City of Alva land?
It belongs to the City of Alva, yes.
And you haven't gotten bids yet? You're just guesstimating what the cost will be?
We used average or current standard prices to arrive at that, and I have bid this before in the past. We approached Share Trust and went through the bidding process, and then Share Trust expressed an interest but asked us to come back at another time, and we came back at another time and felt like that maybe their dedication was elsewhere. They asked us, maybe to keep this in mind in the future. So I think rather than putting a lot of effort into the bidding process, we used some kind of standard figures, if you will, to arrive at a price that would cover this, knowing that we wouldn't spend any more than the actual amount of the bid, which would be less than this.
So you're going to rebid it eventually?
We would definitely, yes, put it out for bid and take the best bid to get the project completed at a figure of this amount or less is what we're.
Is that a function of the city council, that bid process, or is it a function of the committee?
It is not a function of the city council. They have given their blessings. Wes Miller is a city councilman. He also serves on the gun range committee. We don't necessarily meet and report to them on a regular basis, but we keep them very well informed, and if they have any questions or ask anything of us, we work in that capacity with them.
Just a comment, not a question, but when my secretary saw that this is what we were doing tonight, and she was quite excited. She lives in Kiowa, and they drive to Wichita to use gun range. And she thought that was going to be awesome that they could drive to Alva and use a gun range, go to Walmart.
I think the closest thing similar to this is at Moreland. I knew of quite a few guys that drove to Moreland to use their range, but I don't know of anything else other than that one, and it's quite a distance to that one. What's so neat about this location, the Saturday that I had inmates out working, there was a gentleman pulled up, and of course we asked him to wait until he was finished, and he did. But he owns farmland and has places that he can go. But he said, this is so much handier to be able to drive right out here and use this than to go all the way to the farm. And it is very handy. There's a lot of people that don't have that luxury of having a place to go, so it serves them. And then we're finding that a lot of the people that do have places to go would prefer to go out here because of how handy it is.
So what about signage? I mean, is there going to be signs that point for the average guy to know how to get there and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think we need to put a sign along the highway. I just noticed on the Facebook page this evening that there had been a couple of people, 2 different people, ask where the range was. And I thought I had covered that. Maybe if they'd have scrolled down, they might have seen where that was. But I replied to them, and I think signage would be. We were at the inception. Our concern on signage was on getting rules posted so that people had guidelines to follow to use the range. And we do need to put some signage up, and I think that will be something that we take care of in the near future.
I know it's being used. I hunt in the area, and there's not many evenings or early evenings, afternoons, or even mornings that you don't hear shots in that vicinity. Just, several times while I'm hunting, I know people are using it. It's I'm glad it's there, and I think it's one of the things where when I think about the future work of the committee, I know obviously you want to get the facilities established, and I think just to go a step beyond build it and they will come, and really maybe put some thought into who could facilitate a trap shoot, who could get some of these things up and running so that it's bringing the tourist to town, not just the casual shooter, but maybe some of those things. And I know those things have all crossed your mind. I'm sure they have. But to get to see those plans maybe find their way back to this committee, that would make me really excited. Getting the facilities going, I think, is something that, even you've had a ton of support up to this point. But I would encourage you and the committee to come back with the plans for the actual events. What's it going to cost to advertise it, promote it, get people brought in, maybe a block of hotel rooms, but things like that will help make sure that if there are people out there that want to support it, or if there are people out there that just want to use it, that more of that can happen.
One event that took place that I extremely regret not getting pictures of was a 4-H regional shoot, and they had archery, shotgun, rifle, black powder, and it was the fact that it was a regional shoot. It brought 4-H kids in from all the communities around, and that was something that just occurred because the facility was there, the place was there to do that. I think that if we can make the improvements to the facility, there will be a lot of that happen in situations or cases where we haven't actually promoted it. Then we intend to promote different events on top of that too. So you've got a very valid point, but some of that takes care of itself, and we want to promote the events for the just interested. All the guys are just interested in that, and
Will it always be free, open to the public for free?
that's the plan. Yes. we've had people suggest memberships to help raise the money to make these improvements. There's probably the main reason that we don't try to do something like that. If we start charging, then we start assuming more liability, and if there is an accident, the way it's operating now, we have the least amount of liability, or the city of Alva has the least amount of liability. That was actually looked at from a legal standpoint, and our city manager at the time, Mr. Steve Brown, consulted with the city's insurance, and the city's insurance actually said, we will give our blessing if there is not a charge. So we basically cannot charge for that reason, unless we would get some kind of additional insurance, which would increase expenses, and then there would go proceeds from.
A lot of things
Well,
work that way. I know the car show, that's
I'd
one of
say
the big
we-
things. If we
fireworks
don't
show.
charge fireworks shows,
Well, I
if you
think
don't charge for them, your liability is much less.
Yeah, but and also on events like that, you do have, I know that we have to carry as an event sponsor our own liability for our event that covers in the event of any kind of, loss or something like that.
Well, I don't like to
I'm
see.
glad it's open to the public, but I think if for events, it'd be good if you made sure that an event sponsor had, if you're going to close the course down to the public to hold an event, that an event sponsor would have, some kind of liability coverage. I don't think that's going to shape my decision tonight.
Well, I think if you're going to have a city-owned piece of property where people can come in, I think if you charge money for it, it just looks bad that it's not open to the public, especially if you're using tourism tax dollars to do it. And I would like to see that stay as free as possible, because it's their money that we're spending.
The nice thing about that is if someone wants to go take advantage of the range that's come to Alva from somewhere else, they don't have to make sure that they have jumped through all the hoops. It's just, it's obvious when someone asks, we've heard that there's a range, how do we qualify to use it? Follow the instructions that are posted and pick up after yourself, and look out for the safety of yourself and others, and they just are ecstatic that is there for that purpose. And the liability thing is similar to someone hunting on someone's property. If someone says, well, there's several different scenarios there. Let's say you have a sign posted that says no trespassing, keep out. Somebody goes in there and has an accident. That situation, the landowner would be held the least liable. The next would be, yes, you have permission to go hunting there at no charge. They are second least liable. Then a situation where you charge a fee for them to go hunt, or a lease, or maybe even a guided hunt where you provide them some amount of safety. So don't really anticipate that ever to change.
How long do you think it'll take to start to finish, to get the shelter built? Because we have timelines on being able to distribute funds.
I have thought about that, and I would like clarification as to what those timelines are. Would it be the end of this fiscal year?
It's
Which
6
would be-
months is my
Is it
I
one
thought
year?
it
I
was
thought it was
1
1
year.
year
It was
for
1
capital
year, 1
improvements
year,
from the
12
time
months.
it's.
I was under the impression that it was 1 year, but I
It's
wondered
12
if,
months from the time of the,
I wondered if the end of the fiscal year would have anything to do with it.
No.
Probably not.
we have stuff carry over all the time.
But I have no concern whatsoever about seeing the project from start to finish in actually less than that time.
Okay.
I move that we approve the permanent enhancement to the Alva gun range not to exceed $82,500.
Second.
A motion and a second.
Kelly,
Yes.
Janet,
Aye.
Norm.
Aye.
Thank you all very much. I think you'll be very pleased with the amount of tourism and economic development that the range will bring to Alva in the future.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Sorry.
Motion and a
I was
second.
writing.
We're not.